Imagine if you were trying to make out with Weld and you had braces.
No! Oh, the shame. Welcome to Inchworm,
The podcast in which we're inching through worm. I'm Jenny.
and I'm Ted.
And we read a chapter in Parasite. What was it? 10.3?
Yes. What do you think?
Oh my god, Imp is Aisha.
Oh, interesting theory.
It's like so obvious now.
Interesting theory. I mean, it's not confirmed. I don't know.
That is true. It is not confirmed, but it seems very clear and makes sense of a lot of things.
Well, why don't we return to that after I summarize what happened?
Okay, I guess there's also a big headline that Dragon is onto them. That's also a big deal.
Yeah. Anyway, they were infiltrating PRT headquarters. They had Shadowstalker bring in all of the Undersiders, but Weld had Columbo them, discovering that it was a trap, and announced that to the rest of the wards. And we pick up here, the Undersiders spring into action.
Yeah, they do.
Bitch gets back to the front door and whistles to call her dogs. Shadowstalker, controlled by Regent, starts fighting Weld, who immediately turns his arm into a baseball bat-like weapon.
Amazing.
The first priority seems to be getting people out of their handcuffs. Gru and Regent get out pretty quickly, and Taylor starts noticing, like, she can hear somebody laughing. She sees a girl with a demon mask sort of appear from nowhere and attack people with an axe, and then she's really having trouble just like keeping her mind focused on this person who throughout the chapter we realize is definitely Imp, and this is something to do with her power. Flechette shouts, "They've got someone with the stranger classification," and we can talk about all of the Imp stuff, but Imp is very effectively throughout the combat just popping up as if from out of nowhere, as if she'd never been there at all, and dealing damage, or a little bit later, getting Taylor out of her handcuffs. Vista starts using her power to make it harder for the Undersiders to move. Flechette pins Gru to the ground through his boots with her crossbow bolts, and that means that Clockblocker is able to charge him, basically running straight at Gru. Gru gets up his darkness around his immediate vicinity, but Clockblocker plunges through, tags Gru, and Gru is out of commission for the rest of the combat. Taylor, meanwhile, has come prepared with new bug technology. She unloads like 900 bugs from under her armor, and Vista, Flechette, and Kid Win, who are the wards with exposed skin in their costumes, suffer a new and terrible fate. They are stung with bugs that Taylor has dipped in capsaicin. Capsaicin, which is, what makes pepper spicy, is what makes pepper spray hurt you, is toxic to the bugs, but Taylor's figured out a way to just coat their stingers, and for the most part they can survive long enough to deliver a payload by, stinging someone and then rubbing pepper spray in it. And we learn a little bit of sort of Taylor talks about how in her time in the shelters and fighting the merchants with other people, she'd been reflecting on how do I deal with people who might use pepper spray against me? And she couldn't solve that problem, but she did end up inventing this new offensive technology while she was doing some experiments. Understandably, Flechette, Kidwin, and Vista do not do well under this assault. Imp tries to use the containment foam sprayers that the PRT guards that are here, there are a few guards as well as the wards have, but now we see that the foam sprayers have been ID locked, so they have to use a guard's finger to trigger it, but Flechette very cleverly ends up using her darts to just burst all of the foam canisters. So the hallway is full of loose foam, but it can't be weaponized against either party. I think Clockblocker gets foamed out of commission before that happens. We see Regent use his power on Clockblocker on Flechette a couple of times, and he gets hit with a backfire from his power, and there's this horrifying moment where Shadowstalker starts screaming,
Mm-hmm.
loading her crossbow. She's jerkily trying to maybe aim it at Skitter, aim it at Regent, and then she turns to Weld and stammers out, "Help!"
Mm-hmm.
And Regent takes control again. Taylor reflects a little bit about how disturbing it is that Shadowstalker is still conscious while Regent is doing this to her. And, you know, thinks about, is it a fear of paralysis or more just helplessness? And at this point, Skitter gets her cuffs off, thanks to Imp, and she ends up face to face with Kid Win, who's suffering a lot from the insect stings, but is able to load his gun into his armor and start to show off the thing that he's been working on over the past day, which, you know, his armor starts generating these like electricity balls that kind of like slowly float away and back towards him, boomeranging around, and then producing more and more of these balls 2 at a time until they start to arc electricity between them. And it's not super effective at doing damage to the Undersiders. It's more making them have to dodge out of the way, and then the electricity starts to kill off Taylor's bugs. And he does seem to be like getting more effective over time as he charges up. And Taylor suggests, okay, well, let's just have Shadowstalker charge through and get zapped to take Kid Win out. But Regent says that'll disrupt his control. So Taylor's like, well, I've got to figure out how to knock Kid Win out. And so she uses one of Bitch's dogs. She whistles to Bentley and gives him an order, calls him a good boy, and Bentley manages to dive through the electricity, tackle Kid Win. They end up skidding into Flechette. So it's incredibly effective. Bentley does a great job. And the next thing Taylor knows, somebody has slammed her into the wall. And she's like, oh God, Weld came after me. Wait a second. It's Bitch. She says, you do not give orders to my dogs. You do not get a say in whether they are good or bad. She's very upset. Tattletale's like, this is not the time. So Bitch lets Taylor go. And they end up splitting up. So Regent, Imp, Tattletale, and Taylor get into the elevators to head down towards HQ. They leave Gru behind with Shadowstalker, Bitch, and the dogs. Because Gru is still time-locked. Mm-hmm. And they get access to the elevators by prying open Vista's eye for the retinal scan. They get down to Ward's HQ. Tattletale has Taylor cover all of the cameras with bugs. She also gets out a bunch of USB sticks, plugs them into various devices, and hacks into Pigo's administrator account on the system. They are apparently trying to download every document the PRT has on file for their teams. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a couple of minutes for that to work, and they're talking about next steps. Are they going to have to wait even longer than 2 minutes because of Gru? The elevator's going down. You know, could the Protectorate get here in time? Velocity was the only one fast enough, but did they have new recruits? Apparently they weren't expecting Weld or Flechette in this plan, so once again, just the presence of new heroes is messing with them a little bit. The elevator stops working, so they think about, okay, we gotta go up another way. And then, just as they are about to finish downloading the data onto their USB stick, all the power goes out. And Tattletale says, okay, they didn't cut the power because this place is on all sorts of backup power sources. Like, it wouldn't make sense for them to try and pull the plug on us like this. And it turns out the person who does have the ability to do this appears on the computer screen. Somebody who Taylor doesn't recognize but can guess is Dragon.
Oh my gosh.
She was on to us.
Dragon is so cool, but why does she have to mess with the Undersiders?
And that's the end. Yeah.
That's the end of the Undersiders.
I mean,
no.
We do often talk about the what will happen next thing, but I want to circle back to your theory about Aisha. So, like, lay out the evidence for me and for our listeners.
I mean, theory is a weak word. I suppose it's possible Imp is someone else. But So what's happening during the battle is that Taylor can't remember Imp exists.
Yeah.
Every time, like when she focuses on her, like when Imp does something noticeable, Taylor's like, oh, right. But then she fades out of her mind, and she realizes as the battle goes on that if she doesn't try to think about her directly, it's easier to remember her. But then she's like, wait, but how do I think about that without triggering thinking about her directly and then forgetting her? And so there's a little bit of mind-bendiness.
Right.
But she does at one point say like, oh, right, she's some relative of Brian's? And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's like some relation maybe.
Of
yeah.
Brian's. Yeah, which makes perfect sense. I mean, I was joking last time about wait till Aisha gets her powers. She's got them.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's some other thing. We learned that something happened with...
Right, they got attacked.
Aisha
so that's probably
was
probably a trigger event. So probably she didn't have powers before the Leviathan attack, before all of this stuff. Like, she wasn't hiding powers at that social worker visit. I assume.
Yeah.
That's probably the case.
Yeah.
She's pretty young. She's like 13 or something.
Right.
So it would make sense that she is just coming into her powers now. We were saying last time she's at the Undersiders headquarters with, everyone has their faces exposed. It's clear she's in on the secret. And you were
Do I get a vote?
Right. She could potentially get a vote now. And you're like, what is she doing? Dog sitting? You were definitely trying to lead me to.
Yeah, I was happy to let it play out.
Yeah. But yeah, once I got that tiny little bread, I was like, of course, it makes sense.
Yeah, and thinking about...
wasn't there at that first meeting.
Right. Thinking about their interactions.
Oh, yeah.
Imp and Gru a couple of chapters ago. The sort of like, you said you would listen to me, and she's being so bratty.
Makes so much sense for a little sister and a big brother.
Yeah.
And also the Aisha that we saw, she would be excited about going into this kid's bedroom and seeing what they have.
Yeah.
And, seems like the right age for how Imp was behaving. And I have a lot more sympathy for her as a person if she was reacting to Brian like that because she's his little sister.
Yeah.
Like, that's not just how she behaves towards everyone, although I do think there's a strong brat imp thread there. And Brian saying, like, it's tiring dealing with her, which is actually a very gentle way of talking about, like, oh, she's so annoying.
Yeah.
And Tattletale's comment, like, we all got on each other's nerves, like, not the way siblings do.
Right. It's a very, very different dynamic. Well, your theory explains a lot of things. We'll have to see.
My theory.
If it ever gets confirmed.
It's so obvious. Like, what are the odds that they left Aisha at home and they recruited someone else named Imp in the last 3 days? Like... The only way it was making sense to me was if they'd recruited her specifically because they needed her for some aspect of this job.
Yeah.
But we'd never heard of someone named Imp before. This makes so much more sense.
Yeah. I genuinely don't remember, like, which chapter it was when I came up with this theory.
They're being real, or Wildbow, I guess. The text is being real coy about who she is and what she can do.
Yeah.
It seems like her power is that you forget about her.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this? Or did you mention that this power existed? Because I don't think it was one that I came up with as a prediction for someone or in general. But I know I've heard of this idea. Is there someone in some other piece of media that has a power like this?
That's interesting. It's certainly possible I could have explained Imp's power, years ago when we were talking about something else.
Yeah, I do think
it's also very like that episode
familiar.
of Buffy with the invisible girl.
Right, well, she's just invisible.
Right.
Oh, no, I think we'd referenced a character who, in something else, that can turn invisible, but only when no one's looking at them.
Yes, yeah.
That's not this power exactly, but I do think there's also been a discussion of this power. But, like, what a cool mind trick. Just, like, everyone forgets about you.
Yeah.
And, like, what a metaphor.
Oh,
for
yeah,
a
we'll say more.
Kid
yeah.
who's, like, sort of part of the system. Like, she has this social worker and trying to decide if her brother can take her because neither of her parents is up to the task.
Yeah.
Then the system collapses, like we said in the last chapter, that's what Taylor was saying about it. And suddenly she's forgotten by the people who were supposed to get her out of the situation where she was not being cared for adequately. And makes perfect sense that her power is that you just, like, forget about her until she causes a problem.
Yeah. And it's so sad. I mean, we were talking about what's bothering Brian. The fact that now his whole reason for doing this, right? Like, she's now on the team with them, and he is helping take care of her, but also she's putting herself at risk. He doesn't get to give her this normal
life that he wanted.
Right, exactly.
For her.
She's sort of and like from her perspective, she's like, yeah, cool, probably, right? It's like, oh, like my brother was out doing cool supervillain stuff, right? Yeah. So like now I get to be included. That's what the little sibling wants to do, right? Of course. But it's like Brian probably didn't actually want, to bring his sister this directly into the world and the world of fighting and caping and stuff. And
I bet he does feel better about it knowing that she has this strongly defensive power.
That's true. Yeah.
I also wonder if he forgets about her when she's using her power.
Yeah.
Or is he too strongly connected to her? Is she too big a part of his consciousness, his thoughts in general for him to forget?
Yeah, fascinating.
I could see the tragedy of him forgetting, like, when she uses her power, even the person who's been, like, the most determined, like, shaping his life around rescuing her, forgets about her.
Yeah.
Or the sort of, no, we have this connection that's too deep for that would also be...
Yeah, and that's, like, it's so sad, right?
Statement.
It's like being able to give... it's like, oh, I feel like such a burden. And so I can give this person complete freedom from, right?
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's a really good powers metaphor thing, I think.
Also, what a devastating power for, like, the guardian of the person who's, like, taking care of the person with this power. Like, she wants to go out to a concert, she can make you forget about her and she can just go.
Yeah, exactly.
She wants to sneak out. She can run roughshod over him.
Yeah.
I wonder, it would be interesting if he becomes immune a little bit over time, or if he's already immune.
Yeah. It's really
I also wonder, so both of them have these strongly defensive powers, which is interesting, sort of the powers running in families. They don't really work the same way at all, but they are, you can't see me, you can't perceive me.
Yeah, I think it's
certainly a related
family
power.
resemblance, for sure.
And that probably does make Brian feel better about bringing her to these things. I wonder if Clockblocker touched her while she's frozen in time. She probably can't be using her power. I mean, no, nothing can hurt her anyway.
Right.
Yeah, wild. I love that twist. That twist that is obviously canon, even though, as you point out, it's only a theory at this point.
I also feel like this is a really fun take on Dawn from Buffy.
Oh.
The, like, little sibling who gets introduced into the gang and the dynamic, know. There are a lot of things that are different about it, but...
there are a lot of things about it that are more effective than Dawn from Buffy, I think. I did not like Dawn as a story element. I mean, I liked her as a character, but, like, what she did to Buffy I didn't like, and I didn't think, like, her as the key wasn't a very sustainable role for her to play. Like, it worked for that one season. So many Buffy spoilers. I'm so sorry. It's been out for 25 years. Like, you can watch it if you want to. Aisha has a power like Gru does. Dawn didn't have a power like Buffy did. She was sort of this object to be protected, which is sort of the role Aisha had in Brian's life before this, but now she has come into a power of her own. And Gru was already someone who was sort of the, like, annoyingly responsible type. Like, Buffy wasn't that character, and having Dawn kind of pushed her into this, like, it really was a parentification move. Like, just made her much less fun as a character in those seasons.
I think maybe what I was saying was a little more superficial. The sort of, like, we're beginning a new season. It's like, well, there's this unexplained character here. And you sort of find out, true. Right? Like, and it changes the dynamic in a way. It's a little bit that you can't go home again thing.
I mean, the fun thing about Dawn, like, what a bold narrative move to, like, suddenly at the beginning of so many spoilers, season 5, she has a sister and everyone acts as if she's been there the whole time.
Right.
And you're like, what is going on? Right. She does not have a sister.
Right. And so Dawn is more like a retcon, but it's like Imp's power is a little bit more like a moment-to-moment ability to be like,
it's
I never
a joke
existed.
on Dawn. Yeah. I wonder if that was at all in Wildbow's mind when he created that character, or if it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun resonance to think about.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to see more of Gru and his alleged sister interacting.
She hasn't been tried in a court. There's still reasonable doubt. Could be his dad.
Could be his dad. You
never know.
Oh my god. What a twist.
Anyway, so that's Imp. She was very effective in this fight. It doesn't seem like she has any powers beyond the forgettability thing. She did get the handcuffs open, which was pretty impressive. So I don't know if it seems like she was sparring with Gru, so she's probably working on getting those combat powers that will let her make most effective use of her.
Yeah, and then power. Even though the wards had 2 members the Undersiders weren't expecting, Imp, as an unexpected force multiplier in this battle, is so
perennially
incredible.
Unexpected.
Right. It's like, I think Flechette's like, they have a stranger, on the team. But what are you supposed to do about her? Right?
I was impressed with that analysis from Flechette.
Yeah. No, Flechette comes off really well in this chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her quick thinking with the foam, right?
All right, so Ted and I were having a conversation last night about, I was saying, really impressed by Weld. I had said that in the episode. And I said, I think Weld is probably the member of, or the character in Worm that, were I age appropriate, I would date. And we started talking about it. And I said Flechette would also be a really good choice.
Yeah.
So Weld and Flechette doing well.
The two new wards really holding their own in this battle here.
Yeah. But I feel like I've seen more emotional intelligence from Weld. So he's slightly higher on my list right now.
Yeah.
But Flechette would be easier to make out with.
Yeah.
Weld would be a real challenge.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for me.
Imagine if you were trying to make out with Weld and you had braces.
No! Oh, the shame. I mean, that would cause a trigger event in itself. I don't know what power, something to do with shooting teeth out of your mouth.
Oh my gosh, you'd be like everyone's nightmare where they lose their teeth. But you just have teeth grenades.
It's a little tough for me to play the Who's Dateable game because I know a lot more about each of the characters.
Right, yeah.
But
we can play it later on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, the wards, despite ultimately being outclassed or perhaps temporarily being outclassed, do well here. I was really pleased for Kid Win.
His new armor is so cool.
It's doing a thing. It seems like it's maybe not as effective yet as it could be, but he built a thing and it's doing something.
Yeah. And he would have done much better if he hadn't been I feel like
right, he's really at a disadvantage.
I feel like they didn't learn enough from Clockblocker versus Skinner the first time around. Why doesn't everybody in Brockton Bay wear mosquito nets or something, right? You really got to do better.
They probably will. I mean, I was really impressed with how quickly they adapted to villains could take our foam, and now
I know that was a really fun touch.
Unfortunately, not completely foolproof. I mean, unfortunately for the PRT, not completely foolproof because you can just lift up the guy's finger.
Yeah.
But they'll probably come up with an innovation to keep that from happening soon.
Yeah.
And Flechette, and I think maybe Vista was helping, really were effective at disabling the other foam canisters.
Maybe, yeah.
I
think
Vista wasn't helping
because
she was unconscious. I'm not sure why I thought she was involved. Yeah.
Yeah, Vista really, really suffers. I felt so bad. Just okay, Vista's warping the hallway. Oh, Vista's covered in bugs. Oh, she's on the floor covered in bugs. It's they're dragging her. She's
mercifully unconscious.
They're dragging her to the elevator and prying open her eyeball to activate the retinal scan.
She was unconscious. It was fine.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Taylor does. I think Shadowstalker shoots Vista through Regent's control. And Taylor's like, oh, well, at least she won't be suffering anymore from the bugs. She's like, I will inflict pain when I have to, but doesn't mean I enjoy it. And it's like, yeah, that sounds like the line.
So easy for you to say, Taylor.
That sounds like the line she was drawing with the bank job as well. I'll use these bugs on people, but I don't like it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the capsaicin thing.
First of all, cool move.
It's really cool.
Like I said, I love that she keeps leveling up her bug usage.
Yeah.
She has the bugs line up and walk through a bowl of hairspray and then walk through a bowl of the capsaicin.
It's incredible.
Also, this episode is when I realized that that's why it's called pepper spray. I just, you get a face full of black pepper. That's bad too. I thought it was kind of that effect. Turns out, no. There's a reason the word pepper is in there.
Yeah.
And it's because of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has her little bug assembly line. And then she had like almost 1,000 bugs inside her armor arranged so that their stingers aren't touching each other.
Right.
Because she doesn't want to kill any more than she has to from the poison that she has on them. And then, man, it was really effective. Flechette didn't really get disabled, it seemed like. But Vista absolutely did. And Kidwin, you're right, probably would have been more effective at his, like, balls of electricity thingy if he hadn't been, like, almost blind and in horrible pain.
It's just the capsaicin thing. It's like what she's doing is basically figuring out how to make her bugs more effective at dealing out pain that I think it's like not going to be more lasting damage, right? It's more just like temporary excruciating pain to the point where she's like, it makes you so nauseous you can't move, or,
Yeah.
And I totally see the rationality of like, well, I should be as effective as possible, but it's also such a awful way to become more effective.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like compared to if she had laced them up with like sedatives or like some other kind of thing, like the neuter thing where she uses the caterpillar, right? Like, just like knocking somebody out with that kind of thing is like so much more effective.
I want her to buy a bunch of neuter serum.
Right. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, doing it via pain, it really underscores the
moral compromises she's making.
Yeah, definitely that. But just like the coldness of like, it's just pain, I just feel like maybe I'm just soft. But to me, like Taylor, it's the thing where she's like, I can take a lot of pain and I know I'll be okay eventually. Yeah. So like, this isn't going to be doing any, real damage. Not that I think she's glorying in it. I do buy the idea that it's so easy to say like, oh, at least she got tranquilized, so my bugs aren't hurting her any more than they have to. Right? It's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel separate to me from what they're doing in general. Like, she signed up for violence here, and this is her figuring out effective violence. It squeaks me out less than her sending them under Clock Blocker's eyelids and like into his lungs and stuff. Yeah. That horrified me more. Yeah. I don't know. I do think there's some resonance there of like, oof, what are you doing, Taylor? Yeah. But it also feels kind of part and parcel of the gig.
And it's really cool. To go back to what you were saying.
And I just love the way she keeps iterating.
Yeah. One thing I really liked about that is getting to see a little bit more of what Taylor's life has been like, because she describes this scene of like, the merchants were attacking this mall, and there were like a bunch of civilians who had banded together for like a local defense force, like unpowered people. Mm-hmm. And Taylor was like, and I showed up to help fight the merchants and I got pepper sprayed. Possibly intentionally, because she still looks like a villain, even if she was fighting the merchants. But and then she talks about how she was in the shelter and she couldn't sleep and she was thinking about, this is like what led her down this train of thought. So I really did enjoy seeing a little bit of the like, how have the past 2 or 3 weeks been for Taylor and what she'd been doing and how she'd been relating to other people and stuff. I'm impressed she was able to secure some raw capsaicin. I don't know if she distilled it herself or
that's hard.
Went looting or something. Huh. Maybe it's just like if you get access to some pepper spray.
Right, maybe she was able to depressurize it somehow. Yeah. Spray it into a bowl in some contained way. Yeah.
It made me think of like a chem lab, but maybe it's a lot less fancy than that.
And when she's with the Undersiders, she has that like semi-private space, and at least,
that's true.
Isn't at the shelter doing it. Although it did seem like she was doing her experiments at the shelter, so I don't know.
What else is on your mind?
What else is on my mind? It was funny seeing the dogs go up against Weld. Like, they can hit him. It just doesn't hurt him. Yeah. It's like, what do you do to Weld? And the most effective thing was putting metal on his face in the hopes that he would have to start integrating it and that it would obscure his vision for long enough that he wouldn't be as effective.
Imp keeps popping up with a fire axe and like hitting people. She destroys Flechette's crossbow. Yes. But then it ends up with her just slamming the axe into Weld's eyes, which is such a funny image to me.
Yeah, he's basically invulnerable. He's in a fight. This is why he's going to be good to date. Except for, the obvious drawbacks. Okay, but speaking of Bitch's dogs, that was quite a moment that Bitch and Taylor had.
I know.
So what Taylor says is, Bitch wasn't around, so I whistled, whatever, Bentley, is that his name?
Yeah.
Over, and it works. She manages to get his attention, and he charges Kid Win and doesn't really seem to take any damage, and Kid Win and Flechette kind of collapse in the wake of the electricity. And then Bitch slams her against the wall. And, like, on the one hand, like, not the moment, and perhaps an overreaction. On the other hand, I kind of get it. Like, these are her dogs.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me that Bitch would feel like that, but, like, having seen it, I'm like, oh, yeah, and especially this person who betrayed them, like, kind of getting fingers in her dogs. And especially dogs that Bitch hasn't finished training yet. Like, one of the things she says is, you don't get to decide if they're a good boy or not.
Yes,
like,
I love that line.
It's funny, one of the things it made me think of is parents who, like, sometimes you hear the stories about, like, these kids are, like, destroying something in the supermarket, and the workers are like, please don't do that. And the parents are like, how dare you talk to my kid?
Yeah.
Which I think is overblown, and they don't own their kids, and their kids exist in the world, and, like, you know, there are certain ways in which you shouldn't interfere with someone else's parenting, but, like, never talk to someone else's kids are not really that's not really what the rule is, I think. But it is funny, like, training dogs is so different from parenting in some very obvious ways, but in parenting you're trying to raise an independent human to interact with the entire world. And in dog training, like, Bitch really is trying to create a very clear behavior pattern that will last. Like, parenting, you're always like, just try to keep them under control enough and teach them enough to get to the next stage and the next stage, and, like, nothing lasts. And with dogs, you are trying to set up this lasting thing. And it is somewhat appropriate for Bitch to be the only one who interacts with them in this way, for them to follow her very, very closely. Especially the way she needs to use them in fights. Yeah.
I really like the moment. It is, I think, continuing a few different beats. We had, I think it was in arc 7, Taylor's riding one of the dogs and has to, like, issue commands, you know, and stuff. And so it...
Yeah, Bitch didn't get mad about that.
Right. It's a great example of how things have
changed.
Set back, or even worse than they ever were. But it's also another beat in the... Taylor uses everything at her disposal, even other capes.
Yeah. She's not completely ruthless in battle, but she's pretty close to it.
Right. In arc 5, she's bossing Bitch around with the first aid stuff, and Bitch, like, is... They sort of have some friction where, like, Bitch doesn't understand why she's being ordered around, and she does eventually do it. And in arc 8, there are all those great moments where Taylor's like, hey, fireball guy, come and burn this lady's face so she'll survive, right? You know, like, she's, like, looking around.
What can I use? Yeah, and
so this is exactly that mindset of, like, there's a little bit of friction where she's like, well, I would have Bitch do this, but Bitch isn't close enough. Like, it has to be me. And the only thing I can do...
I read Bitch wasn't around as, like, oh, did Bitch stay outside for some reason? But it seems like Bitch just wasn't in her immediate vicinity, and there's all this foam, so they can't really see everything. So it's really just that she couldn't find Bitch in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, like, instead of calling out, Bitch, I need you to tell you know, Bentley to do blah blah blah.
Yeah, what Taylor did was probably faster, but
and
cool Bitch.
Hearing you talk about it, it is so fascinating to have this moment of Bitch being like, you don't get to decide, which is, I think, a very reasonable boundary to set. Mm-hmm. Contrasted with poor Shadowstalker here, who is being used, again, just in the same way as a disposable asset. I think Taylor even thinks about. Which, like, in addition to forget the body horror aspect of it, which we can,
just like someone's fighting with your body and they don't care what happens to it.
Right. Because they have Shadowstalker fight Weld at the beginning, and Taylor thinks, well, Regent didn't have to be particularly careful with Shadowstalker's body. And I was like, what? Like, really? Like that's your standard? But then later, she's like, okay, well, yeah, how are we going to knock out Kid Win? Oh, Regent, have Shadowstalker do it. Because, like, we don't care what happens to her. Like, I was like, oh, God, yikes.
I really do think that this wouldn't work the same way or at all, potentially, for Taylor and for the narrative if it weren't Taylor's bully who just tried to murder her.
Well,
like,
no,
absolutely.
100%. And that's that's why it's so devious as a narrative method, right? Because it's like, we're the frogs in the pot of boiling villainy being like, yeah, but like, it's Sophia, right? Like, how many times can you say that?
Right. Yeah. So Weld is the one who voices, like, she's conscious in there. And that was such an Animorphs moment of like, she's a controller. She's watching all this happen. Yeah. And Regent says something about like, oh yeah, like just recently or something. So she's kind of getting some control back, I guess. Maybe his power is wearing off. I don't know. Yeah,
I thought it was interesting. Is his power wearing off? Is it that he uses his power on Flechette and Clockblocker a couple of times and he gets a backfire? So like, I don't know if it's like, how much is it he's overextending himself?
I think,
his control is deteriorating over time. Like, I feel like there could be a few.
It really did seem like a overextending himself situation. But yeah, that sends Taylor on this line of thought of like, yeah, I've always had a particular horror of this idea of being in my body, but I'm not controlling it. Like the paralysis with Leviathan. And she's like, I'm not sure there's a real reason for it. I haven't seen, a relative get paralyzed or something like that. She does think like these thoughts have been happening more like maybe over the last year or two, and maybe it's more about helplessness. And I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it's about the bullying. And that really, in a beautiful, not hitting us over the head with it way, underscored how much this is maybe not emotionally for Taylor, but in terms of the actual effects, payback for Sophia. Yeah. Like, this is a very concentrated dose of what she gave Taylor over an almost 2-year period.
Yeah.
Of like helplessness and, just having to live through it and be in this passive state.
Yeah. And we know, I mean, Taylor and Sophia have a similar deep, deep well of anger and resentment that boils up when they are forced to be put into these situations of helplessness, which is very human. I'm not necessarily saying it's particular to the two of them, but I feel like that's a strong commonality. And
they both distrust authority.
The part that got to me was Sophia takes control again. She screams. That's very affecting. She immediately lashes out, first at Skitter and then at Regent, but then she uses her last moment of control to turn to Weld and stammer out help, which is like not going to be an easy thing for her to do.
Wow, that's
which
really
I think
true.
says a lot about how much she is suffering.
True, that's not in character for her to ask for help.
Yeah, under this situation.
Yeah. Very impressive that the narrative managed to get us into Sophia's head without making us sympathetic to her, but then put someone else in Sophia's head and did make us sympathetic towards her.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, I was also thinking a lot about what Sophia was saying about Capes being judge, jury, and sometimes executioner.
Yeah.
And that in addition to maybe, I think you were talking about sort of like karmic payback, it is also a very literal turnabout of her own philosophy, which is that the Undersiders overpowered her.
Yeah.
And
might makes might.
This is might makes might. Right. So like, I think that I was very critical, skeptical of Sophia's worldview. And so like, I think I hold to that here, even when it's turned against her. But yeah, it is a very core theme to the story at large, but I think all of the stuff around Sophia.
Yeah. It's funny. I do think it's something where in real life I might just say no. Say like, absolutely not. Like, there are no circumstances in which this is justified.
Yeah.
But in the narrative, it really doesn't bother me that much. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, where are they going with this? What can they do with it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I wonder, because Worm does a good job of deconstructing tropes of like, well, let's think about, what it would mean, right? For whatever reason, the one that comes to mind is like Sophia taunting Vista about Gallant's power, being like, how gross was it that he could tell when, you were crushing on him, right? Like, just sort of like taking seriously what it would be like for everybody to live in this world. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this arc, what we're doing here feels a little bit like that, of like, you get the like, oh, like, okay, this is like a cool thing powers can do, and then we're like living
Taking
with it a little bit more, taking it a little bit more seriously here. So it'll be interesting to see sort of where it goes, where it ends up.
And it does remind me so much of how Animorphs treats it. Like, it's like a 54 book series for middle schoolers. And in book 6, spoilers for Animorphs, book 6, they put a yerk in Jake's head, in the point of view character's head, and it is horrible and horrifying.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the book I read that made me fall in love with the series.
Yeah.
It is this, like, treating it really seriously, and like, it's not just like, oh yeah, and aliens are taking over people, and so we have to fight them. It's like, no, what would it be like for those people who are being taken over? I mean, we see it in the second book of Animorphs.
Yeah.
And there really is a strong through line between those two works.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying that Wild Bill read Animorphs specifically, but like thematically.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Should we talk about what happens in the ward's central headquarters?
Oh, yeah. So they're doing data exfiltration.
Yeah. So I guess they just wanted the data?
That's what we got so far.
It seems weird that they didn't just send Shadowstalker in to get the data.
Yeah.
Maybe they couldn't have done that because Tattletale needed to be there.
Yeah. There's also a question of how far away does Regent have to be. So I feel like the minimum group might have been Shadowstalker takes down Regent and Tattletale.
I wouldn't be surprised if he could be outside the building while she's doing it.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be a reasonable range. I don't know the range, but he hasn't been precious about range so far.
Yeah.
So I wonder why they didn't try a plan that was Shadowstalker pockets the thumb drives, goes into headquarters with a little camera on her, and an earpiece connected to Tattletale, and goes to the computer, downloads the files, like whenever it's her, like maybe she takes a turn at the like computer or whatever, downloads the files, walks out again, gives them to them.
Yeah, I also don't know. And it also seems clear, like, I feel like, having seen what has happened so far, actually plan A always was that this was going to blow up into a firefight.
Right, because how are they going to get
within the first 15 minutes? Right,
if
like
they were in a holding cell.
Right,
or something?
it seems like maybe they would have turned on them after they got out of the elevators or something. Right. But, so like it's like Weld calling them on the trap.
Maybe just bumped up the timeline a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. But it really does feel a little bit like the fact that they were just going to whistle for the dogs and have them come in the front, right? Like that couldn't have happened after they went down the elevators.
Actually,
so like, it does seem like the plan just was come in, just get us all as close as possible to the computer, and then fight our way there, and then fight back out. Which is like,
seems like a bad plan. I don't know.
I'm kind of with you. And the thing is,
we don't know the whole story yet, but
right. And again, we don't know what's going to happen. But I also feel like if they weren't expecting Weld and Flechette, they certainly weren't expecting Dragon's attention.
Yeah.
So it's almost like
things that really messed
whatever
up.
their plan was has almost been completely trumped by how caught flat-footed they are. And I feel like it doesn't reflect well on Lisa in particular, because it's like, this is the second time there have been surprise awards. And then she's like, but the Protectorate can't get here, that quickly because Velocity's dead. And Taylor's like, but they could have recruited someone else. And she's like, oh, you're right. And then Dragon's here. Was like another unexpected. I mean, here, she's
you're right.
She's monitoring, but
I mean, Lisa's power really doesn't give her advance warning of things.
Right.
But yeah, Dragon is a problem in the way that Weld yelling it's a trap is not a problem.
I guess what I want to say is, last chapter, Taylor's like, well, I got to be better and swallow my pride and arrogance. I feel like this is a pretty arrogant plan on the side of the Undersiders, right? There's on the one hand, they haven't lost yet.
Also, I bet they have Coil's power backing them up. If they really fail, they just won't go.
That's true, right. So, right. Are they doing... Is this the, like...
She did say they have Coil behind them.
Right. But sometimes it's like there are two competing timelines, and sometimes it's like there's a timeline where they stay home. So I don't know which one it is. So I can sort of see how the data about the PRT teams could be a useful asset, but it does feel
doesn't seem that important. And
the calculus of like, is there no other way to do this?
And Tattletale's really good at hacking into things. Can she not do this remotely?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And if like the reason you can't do it remotely is because of Dragon, then wouldn't you have seen Dragon coming? You know, like
yeah.
But we probably don't have the full story yet.
We probably don't.
You know, we'll see.
It would be fun if this is what they want it to seem like they're doing.
Right, exactly.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
I was thinking about how Tattletale and Taylor have this secret plan in my imagination, and remembering the all-in exchange that I feel like was hearkening back to the conversation the two of them had, because it wasn't part of the conversation we saw of Taylor and the whole Undersiders team.
That's true.
So I think they're all in together on this plan.
That's true.
Also, we were talking, this is a little bit taking us away from the dragon thing, but you were asking me, how is Gru going to handle if they end up not siding with Coil? Well, now his sister is on the team.
Yeah.
It maybe doesn't matter as much.
That's
if
a
he gets
really
custody
good point.
Of her. And none of the others have ironclad reasons they have to go with Coil.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, so Dragon spotted them. Dragon was already watching the computer because she was expecting Chariot, who doesn't seem to be around right now, to do some kind of espionage thing.
Yeah.
And she spotted them.
Yeah, she timed it perfectly just before the timer counted down to 0, turning off all the power.
Yeah.
So it's unclear, like, they might have gotten nothing, right? Like, if the data transfer didn't finish. I don't know how.
Usually, like, one package that has to, like, it's usually a lot of files, probably. They probably got most of the files.
I guess. I mean, so maybe this was the quickest Dragon could shut them off. I felt like
kept that from happening. Like, you're right. Not because of the power going out, but because Dragon was involved.
Yeah.
Probably there's nothing on the USB sticks.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to go on. Like, there probably are anti-villain measures in the building that they'll have to deal with. Like, Tattletale says, like, there's stairs, but, like, are the stairs locked or trapped in some way? Booby-trapped? Yeah, now it's going to be like a Home Alone situation.
That's also, right, like, how confident are they that, like, the walls aren't just full of foam? You know, right? Like, I just...
Maybe Lisa did some research.
I just don't know.
It's a weird and risky plan, and I look forward to finding out more about it.
On the other hand, maybe it's like, eventually someone's going to find out about how Imp works, so you might as well, like, do something like this while you have this
but will they remember?
Crazy advantage. I mean...
I guess they'll remember when she's not there using her power.
Right. The way that I interpret Taylor's parsing of it is kind of like, the more actively you were trying to, like, perceive her in the moment, the harder it is to remember that she's there when she's using her power. Right. So it's kind of like if you give up on trying to beat her power, you can remember that Imp exists. Right, you might not be able to perceive her in the moment, but, like, you can sort of...
And when she's not using her power, like, they'll come away from this fight and be like, oh, yeah, that girl we kept forgetting about. And they probably will take some kind of measure to try to remember her. So I
sort of feel like there's a little bit of a, like, the harder you try, the more you forget.
Sort of forgetfulness arms race here.
Right, so, like, being in battle with her and seeing her pop in and out, just naturally you're going to be like, what is going on? And the more you think about it, the more confused you get. But, like, if you're doing the after-action report, you can probably come to okay, the Undersiders have a team member called Imp who has these kinds of powers, and that maybe helps you slightly. It doesn't help you perceive her, but, like, you know, you can...
You're a little more prepared.
Get out of the mind whammy part of it. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know at all. That's the impression I got from this chapter.
Yeah, I don't feel like whatever they can remember after the fact is going to neutralize Imp's power, but this might be the most effective she is just because no one sees her coming at all.
Yeah. Anything else to say?
2 things. First of all, do we know Director Pigo's first name?
I do.
Okay, it starts with a J, and I was like, oh, I hope it's not Jennifer. But she's
do you want me to tell you?
No, don't tell me. She's too old for that to be likely.
Okay.
Because she would have been, like, the Jennifer boom started in the mid-70s, and she, I think, would have to be, well, no, she'd be older than that. So probably not, but we'll see. I hope it's not. The other thing sort of is in line with the discussion of Imp's powers, only opposite. I was positing to Ted last night and said that I have to share it on mic because obviously it's correct. What if Madison doesn't exist?
Listeners, this theory blew my mind.
Because of how correct it is, right?
I cannot confirm.
So we have this trio. Sophia only called Emma. She didn't even think of Madison. She didn't think of her as a predator, as a victim, or anything. Didn't cross her mind in any way. Madison has really largely fallen out of the story. What if Madison is Taylor? Taylor's being bullied by her two best friends.
Taylor Durden.
And that's why Madison keeps coming up with the same stupid ideas involving Juice, because she's not like a real person and can't like think independently.
All right.
I feel like this would have to be some sort of like hallucination, or someone else is using a weird power on Taylor.
Okay. What about the meeting with the principal?
Okay, so I didn't go back and read that chapter. I think her parents are there, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was positing that what if those were really Sophia's parents?
Okay.
And Sophia was there with, like, this woman who didn't seem to be her parent, like maybe a social worker or something. And Taylor, in her power-induced psychosis or something, thinks that these must be Madison's parents, because Madison obviously needs to have someone there.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is just so sad. Taylor, back in chapter 1, pouring juice on her own head.
Yeah, it's, it doesn't quite hang together, but, like, there's got to be something with Madison. She just...
I look forward to the Madison arc in the future. It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, the one where we find out Taylor has been bullying herself.
I didn't say that. Do you have any other predictions about the next chapter?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I think there's going to be more trouble on the way out, fighting on the way out. I do think there probably will be some obstacles to just getting out of the building now that Dragon is in control of the building. Dragon's really good at buildings, we know.
Yeah.
And I do think that they have a goal that is not the information on the files.
Okay.
It's like, I just think they could get those some other way, including Coyle having a spy in the wards who can get information.
Honestly, that's a really good point. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah, maybe like the Undersiders don't know about that, but like Coyle knows about their mission. So if you were like, oh, you're doing that? No, don't do that. I'll get you the information some other way.
That's a really, really good point.
They've got to have some other goal, and this is cover for it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
The first sentence is, I could detect a definite note of irritation.
In Dragon's face. In Dragon's voice, as she said, "You annoying children, get out of here. You would have gotten away with it if it weren't for me being good at," what is it, interfering kids? Pesky kids?
Yeah. And your little dog, too.
Yeah, those are upstairs. They're not very little.
That's true. They're very good, though.
Well, you weren't allowed to decide that, Ted.
Okay. Come out of the book and punch me, Rachel.
She will.
All
right,
if anyone could.
So we're going to see what happens.
Next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildvote. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.